Howdy, everybody. This presentation is on top lining. We want to talk about the business of top lining, what it even is. And I think you'll be surprised to find out that you know exactly what it is. You've probably done it and just maybe didn't know it. So we're going to talk about top lining. But first of all, it's important to understand that it is a business in and of itself. There's the business of actually making music with a co-writer, but then there's also the business of being a top line writer. And so you just have to understand when someone uses the word top line, they're probably meaning something a little different than co-write. You can structure it as a work for hire. Um, Actually, backing up, top lining is just referring to writing lyrics and melody over the top of already existing music. Um, Now, I think a lot of people already write that way, where if they collaborate with someone who is an instrumentalist, I used to do this all the time. The co-producer, co-writer I used to work with regularly, he did not write lyrics and melody. I wrote the lyrics and melody, but we wrote a song together, and it would usually start with his ideas for a verse and a chorus, and then I would kind of shape the rest of the song based on what I felt it needed to do because as a vocalist, I had more instinct for pop music and what it was supposed to do. Um, but anyway, that is what top lining is referring to. And I've noticed on TikTok right now, there's this interesting trend where some producer will lay down a beat and they'll be like, hey, who wants to lay down some bars? Guess what they're asking you to do? They're asking you to top line. And I don't really know how this is going to shake out because at some point, someone's going to sue somebody for stealing their idea or not properly crediting them. I think it's going to create a big mess, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so anyway, you yourself can write over the top of someone's beat. You could be hired as a session vocalist to do this. Um, if you do not sing, but you do the top line writing, then you could actually be a more of a collaborator, and then you and the producer that make beat would probably hire a session vocalist to learn the lyrics and melody that you wrote. So it can be a work for hire situation where someone pays you a set amount to top line, or you can be considered a co-writer or a collaborator in exchange for back-end royalties. Another thing that you can do is, let's say you're an independent artist, you sing or you rap, and you don't make your own beats and you don't have a bunch of money to put into a producer to make beats for you or make instrumentals for you. You can actually purchase beats um, for exclusive or non-exclusive license. And that's kind of another can of worms that I'm not going to dig into too much, but I would just say be very selective with these because you do pay more for an exclusive license to use one of these beats. And all that means is exclusive means supposedly you're the only one who is going to be using that beat. So you don't have to worry about a bunch of other versions of the beat that you're using with different top lines. But oftentimes you still don't own that music. You might be the only one who can release that instrumental with your top line, but you are still just licensing that beat. So you have to be really careful, make sure that you are reviewing what you're agreeing to, or have a lawyer review it for you and explain it to you. And of course, I have to throw this in. Only ignorant people or scammers will say we don't need to worry about all that business stuff. Make sure that it's all up front, it's all in writing. So if you're going to top line over somebody's beat, and let's say it was a producer that just hit you up on Instagram, hey, I love your voice. Will you throw some bars on top of this? Well, whatever language, you want to make sure that it's very clear what's going to happen once this song is done. You put your heart and soul into something. Let's say it turns out amazing and you're like, I really want to release this. And then they're like, Oh, wait, what? No, you got to pay me $5,000 for that beat. Make sure it's just all figured out ahead of time. Now, we're going to talk about how to top line. This is really a fun, it can be a fun process, but it's also maybe a little foreign to a lot of songwriters. I know for me, when I started working with that co-producer, up to that point, I was already 30 years old by that point. I had only written as a lyric and melody person first. I got these ideas from melodies usually and would kind of fill in the blanks with my lyrics. And then maybe I could figure out chords, but that was about as far as it went. And when I started working with this co-writer, he was like, but I make the instrumental. And I'm like, okay. So we had to figure out that the only way that we could work together, um, I mean, he could definitely put music to things that I was creating, but then he didn't feel like a co-writer anymore. Now he was just producing. He was just putting down some instrumental tracks for a song I had already constructed, if that makes sense. So, in order for him to feel like he was a creator, he had to basically start the song. His drum beat, his bass line, his guitars, and at first it was so hard for me to write lyrics and melody over the top of something that someone else had already created. It was really awkward, but now it's become probably my favorite way to write, because instead of having just a blank canvas, you now have this new material. It just took me a while to get to that point. And when I say a while, I mean like a couple of years of trying. So be patient with yourself if you've never written this way or you're trying and you find it really hard. Um, it just requires practice like everything else. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go through the process that I would normally go through um, to top line. And I'm going to use a beat that I started just so I don't have to worry about using someone else's instrumental and getting copyright strikes or anything like that. This is a beat that I started for one of my artists, and I actually don't know if we're even going to use it. I didn't get very far with it. It's just a um, really rough sketch right now, but let's give it a shot. So, what I do first, let's say I'm not the one that created it, but I am going to top line. Someone sends me a beat. Okay, that we're at a minute in, and that is basically your intro, first verse, pre-chorus, and chorus. And you can kind of hear throughout, even though it's kind of a bare bones production, um, you can tell where there's a little build every four measures. There's a new section, and you kind of hear where it opened up a little into possibly a chorus. So the first thing I would do is listen probably at least that far, maybe all the way through first, and then make some decisions about it. But actually, back up a little. First, you have to know in your mind, am I top lining for an artist? Or is it for me as the artist? Or is it for a particular purpose? So let's say the artist I started this track for, she wanted something kind of Jeremy Zucker-ish. And I think that was too far of a departure for her. she's a little bit more R&B than that. And so I think even though she thought she wanted that, we she's probably not going to use this. But I think it fits right in that Jeremy Zucker production. So let's pretend like we're going to write this for me. I'm the artist, and that's my genre. That's my style, is kind of a Lennon Stella or Jeremy Zucker or something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to make some decisions about the track. What is the overall mood of the track? What are some emotion words you might associate with the track? What is the genre? If it's not obvious, then write some genre options. And does it remind you of a particular artist? If so, who? And are there clear sections already apparent in the music? If so, sketch an outline of the song. And if not, that's okay, as long as you are in a situation where you've been given permission. If you're using this and collaborating with a producer, then you should have the freedom to say, you know what, I want to repeat the chorus twice at the end, or whatever you want to do. You should be able to do that. Okay, then the next thing we do, I put create a title list and pick a title that fits. You really can get started on this even if you don't have a title list going already, or don't want to worry about lyrics. I think melodies are kind of the main thing. They're really the king of pop music. And when I say pop, I'm basically saying anything that has pretty obvious hooks and pretty obvious verses and chorus. I don't care if it's really hard rock or really silky R&B. If it has those elements, like it's catchy in any little part, I think you can call that pop. It basically fits this format. So first thing I'm going to do is just play around with some melodic ideas, and I'll just show you. Now, for a long time, I used to kind of do this, but I was embarrassed about it because I felt like it was wrong, until I watched Ryan Tedder's monthly class. Did anybody take that? Paid a big chunk of money to watch him basically create music, which was amazing. But it was so funny because it validated so many things that I have kind of figured out how to do myself over the years. And I kind of felt like they were maybe wrong, like I was cheating. But here he was, a hit songwriter, hit producer, actually doing the same thing. And what he does is he really sketches out melodies first, and he'll kind of go through the whole song and be like, okay, this is the verse, this is the pre-chorus, this is the chorus, and just kind of uses gibberish rather than lyrics. And sometimes lyrics kind of bubbled out, and then he'd be like, oh yeah, I really like that phrase. And the song might end up using that phrase. So all this stuff that I have about, finding a title, that's kind of how I would do it before, when I was a little embarrassed about my my melodic gibberish. But I'm going to show you what the melodic gibberish process looks like, because I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. One thing that people do when they're first learning to top line is they kind of focus too much on the instrumental. I'll give you an example. If I'm like, obviously right here, there's only the beat, and this is such a minimalist production that it's not as easy to get hung up on what the instruments are doing. It's more just kind of a beat. But a beginner might do something like ba, ba, ba-da, ba, ba, ba-da, ba, ba. I have to apologize. I don't have much of a voice because I'm just getting over, and I still have this horrendous cough that kind of bugs me. So you heard that what I was doing was essentially living in the same space. My melody was living in the same space as the main keyboard riff. And while there's nothing wrong with doing that here and there, that that's kind of the bottom rung instinct for most people when they first start this. And if you don't release that instinct and allow yourself to go other places, you will very quickly feel stuck, like you are in a rut and you can't think of anything else. So we're going to ignore that little keyboard part, other than it's establishing the chord and the mood and definitely rhythm, but we're not going to latch onto it. Okay. So back to, I'll just play that intro where it's just beat. Here, maybe repeat. So I waited too long to come in. So obviously the chorus just came in and I was not ready for it. So that's the kind of stuff that you kind of figure out like, oh, okay, I need a little more time or I need less time. Either you can modify the track in your own, in GarageBand or whatever DAW you are hopefully getting used to working in, because you should definitely pick one and start working in one. Anyway, that's like idea one. Now we can maybe try something else. I'll start earlier. Oh, oh, ma-da-na-na-na, oh, oh, wa-da-da, ba-ba, ba-dum-da-da, ba-ba, da-ba-da-da, ba-ba, da-ba-ba-dum-ba, dum-dum-dum, ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Here's the chorus. Hi-ya, oh, hi-ya, oh, I really can't sing right now. I'm kind of embarrassed because I sound so horrible, and also because I never sing anymore. I'm just like out of practice. But anyway, that kind of gives you an example of just gibberish melody and shaping. If you find yourself, and I really recommend doing this while you can record it, either on your phone or in a doc. If you find yourself stuck, there's a few different ways to get out of it. Let the lyrics drive is one of the things that I have there. And by that, I mean, if you've already written some lyrics that are really cool and you're going to plug them into your melodic sketch idea, don't be afraid to make little adjustments to that melodic sketch so that your lyrics flow more comfortably and more freely, like a real conversation. You want your lyrics to feel like you could just read them and they would make sense. Create mini hooks. You notice that I didn't just go 1, 2, 3, ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. Like that would have fit over that beat easily. But where's the interest in that? That's really, really boring. So if you find yourself kind of falling into these whole note type of melodies like that, mini hooks is just little rhythmic and melodic patterns repeated. And of course, you can't repeat them too much. It's got to be just the right amount. So it could be like little pockets of hooks. Rhythmically alter. This is another great way to get out of ruts. If you find yourself always coming in on the downbeat, and if you don't know what the downbeat is, 2, 3. Actually, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're always coming in 1 on the 1, change it up. Do something where you come in on the and 2. or try something where you do a pickup. So you're coming in on the and of the measure before, like this. So go like this. Do a da da da. Bum bum. Ba da ba. Da 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 da. Something like that. Okay, so just playing around. Obviously, you just play until something comes out that you're like, oh yeah, I love that. Okay, tweak one note, tweak two notes, tweak three notes. If you really break down your little phrases, and in pop, really, they don't have to be, they really are just simple. Um, if you have a phrase that's 8 measures long before it repeats, that's really too long. So it should be maybe 2 measure phrases. And measures is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of those groups of 4, that's a measure. Okay, that's basically it. Collaborate and have fun. Some places to go where you can find opportunities to top line. I've met a lot of great people in the Make Pop Music Facebook group. And some of the people that I've met on there are amazing singers. There's tons of great producers. There's always people looking to collaborate. And what you want to do is find the people that complement your skill set. So if you're a singer and you have the ability to record and edit your own vocals, there are producers who are going to be looking for you, and vice versa. If you're a producer or a songwriter, certainly there's going to be people who, if you have really honed your skills and have some good content that you can share with them, you should easily be able to collaborate. Now, if you just want to find some opportunities to experiment and just get better, Google free beats or just go onto YouTube and search beat in the style of whatever artist you are interested in and or writing in. And there are tons of beats. And of course, you don't want to just, you can't just download and release that for free, but this is a way for you to get some practice. You can just pull it up on Google, play it, play around with the writing portion, and make sure you're nurturing all of the relationships that you have with your local artists, artists that you've met in groups like ours, or online. Nurture those relationships, find opportunities to collaborate. And collaborate means you're all people participating are adding value. So if you're a songwriter looking for a producer and you want to collaborate, meaning you just want your production for free, you have to have something to add value to that producer, which could be you have an amazing voice. You can sing in a lot of genres. You can record and edit your own vocals and do all your backing vocals and everything. You really have to bring a lot to the table if you're going to use that word collaborate. Okay, that's it, everyone. Thank you for joining me.